Assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very warm welcome to another interesting discussion organized by CxO Global Forum. I mean, normally we always, every discussion is interesting, but today's is personally, I'm very interested because HR is a topic I feel very strongly to. Before we deep dive into today's topic, I would just like to introduce today's very esteemed and very renowned panel. And instead of introducing them myself, I'll just quickly hand over the floor to each of our speakers and let them give their brief introduction before giving a short synopsis of today's topic and then going into a deep dive. So, Jalal, shall we start with you?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. An honor and a pleasure to be here. My name is Jalal Curmally, and I head Human Resources for EFU Life Assurance.
Thank you. Tanveer?
Assalamu alaikum ji. Thank you, Sahar, and welcome to all. This is Tanveer. I've been into technology for last 25 years and been the head of IT and the chief information officer for the various organizations. So looking forward for the very fruitful discussion today.
Thank you. Sarah?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me. I'm basically the CEO and partner of Aspire HR Private Limited. I've been in the industry and in the profession since almost 15 years and carrying the experience of HR in the same field. So I'm hoping that today's discussion is going to be very much fruitful for all the HR people.
Thank you. Asad?
Thank you so much, Sahar. This is Muhammad Asadullah, and I am connected from the UK. I was recognized as exceptional global talent. I have worked in all verticals, and I will be relating Pakistani HR organizations culture with the UK ones. So I will be focusing on this area mostly. Thank you so much for the invitation. Let's start.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and a very warm welcome again to all of you and to our listeners. I think I'll just briefly speak about the topic and hand over the floor to our speakers. I'm a practicing lawyer, and I take an interest in HR because, I mean, in other countries, even in Pakistan to an extent, employment law or labor law is a specialized area of law. Now, traditionally, Pakistan has been an agri country. Predominantly, we've been an agricultural country. So, over the years, we valued our assets as crops and cattle. And then we went through a process of industrialization where we started valuing
Did we lose her?
Seems so.
Yes.
Can you hear me, or was there a break in between?
There was a break. You were talking about valuation.
Yes. Did I leave at agriculture or did I move to
You left us at
industrialization?
cattle.
Okay. So we valued cattle and crops, and then we went through a decade of industrialization where we started valuing plants, equipments, machineries, etc. All along, I feel at the backstage, the most important asset has always been human resource. And we are a very fortunate country to have had an active working population all along. And now with a global shift, with advancement in technology, etc., there was a global shift and a lot of value was being placed on human resource, employees, etc. Pakistan, I feel personally, and I'll let you confirm that as well. I feel that Pakistan has also finally caught up to that valuation, especially during the pandemic when everything was closed. People were still working, whether from home, well, mostly remotely, and they continue to work. A lot of us continue to work remotely or hybrid. So, what are your thoughts? I think Jalal, let me first hand over the floor to you. What are your thoughts on this?
Can you be more specific? Because that's a very broad-based question.
Do you feel that globally there has been a shift in how human resource is managed, and that has had an impact in Pakistan as well, how employers manage their employees and human resources over the years?
Oh yeah. I've been fortunate enough to actually enter into the HR field at a time when HR in Pakistan was approaching its current levels of maturity and penetration. Because I can recall a time very early on in my career, and please don't infer my age from this, that HR was not as prevalent within organizational frameworks, within management practices, etc. So if you are asking me whether or not globally there has been a shift, absolutely. No one will deny that. In Pakistan, has there been a shift? Oh, absolutely. No one will deny that either. The fact that we are sitting here today in the presence of such colleagues, etc., is testament to that. More to the point, though, I think that HR now, not just in Pakistan, but globally, is going through another change, another evolution. I think from what to as far as I can see and to as far as my thought goes, which admittedly is not very far, HR is going to have to evolve, and very soon, if we are going to be delivering the same level of value and effectiveness to our people and our organizations going forward, there's lots of sociological, cultural, and technological challenges in front of us that are changing the way work in society, work in organizations will be done, and what a effective and productive corporate culture is going to look like today and tomorrow. All of that is changing very fast. So I think HR in Pakistan this time has reached a level of maturity where we will be responding pretty much in real time to the rest of the world as we face these common challenges together.
This was actually going to be my next question. Where do you see Pakistan, or how do you see Pakistan adapting to this changing environment? I mean, I feel over a short span of a few years, we've gone through shifts and phases. And as you say, we have to adapt to it. But in the immediate future, how do you see employers generally managing their HR or strategizing their HR policy?
I can't speak for different companies or different sectors or even different industries, because everyone is different and not everybody is at that same level. Is there a general level of sophistication in HR now in the market? Yes. But then it depends upon each individual organization, how they view the role of HR in their companies and what strategies and plans they put in place to take it forward. I'm sorry, I can't give you a more specific example than that. I will say one thing, though. I mean, I belong to the generation where when email first came out,
Yes,
that happened in front of me. And I remember CEO या सेठ के secretary के पास एक machine होती थी जिस पे email होता था. And you had to take permission. Today, email is everywhere. On the 1st of November, Microsoft will launch Copilot for Windows 11 and Microsoft Office 365. That's very interesting. I find that very interesting. And that is going to change. I feel it's going to go through the same evolution and the same process, I feel, that email addresses did. That changes a lot of things, especially it changes the way we work and the amount of resources we need to get that work done. And if you're alert and aware to these new changes and challenges, then I think you're in it for a very interesting time indeed. But again, it has to be driven by organizational value.
Correct. So technological advancement and HR strategy sort of go hand in hand, and we need to adapt one to the other. Tanveer, moving to you, what, in your opinion, are the key components of an effective HR strategy, given where we are now and where you see generally the world of Pakistan going forward?
Thank you, sir. And I think thank you, Jalal, for setting up the pace, which has been more like a foundation for the discussion. And just again, I just wanted to mention one specific thing, sir, that you mentioned, that there has been a shift in terms of various revolutions. There used to be agriculture and farming, and then the industrial revolution, and then the technological evolution. Generally we call it a digitization or something. Apart from that, if you see in the entire human race, there has been an evolution as well. We used to have a certain level of people, then we got into the millennial age, then we talked about Gen Z, then we talked about the alpha and betas coming up. So from HR perspective, so it's not just about managing the resources, it's more about managing the human resources. And when we are having a team of people which belongs to millennials and Gen Zs and the other people who are older than that, it comes up with a different set of challenges into it. Leave aside the challenges of COVID and the inflation and recession and the brain drain, but
You
yes,
need to
HR,
manage them differently. Yeah.
you have to manage them differently because each one of them, like just what Jalal mentioned, where when the co-pilot
Exactly.
will come up, people are not more glued to the email, because email now people get on the phone. So generally is something which is people prefer to be on the WhatsApp, they prefer to be on the Insta and other technologies which are more revolutionized, I must say, or what you call them, which are more easy to use, and where the people also want to have a conversation or a dialogue in a much easier way. So over automatically, but these people, the different strategies need to be there. And we talk about strategy, then strategy has to take place across the entire, the entire landscape, from the hire to retire thing. That when the person enters into the organization, then he goes through a process of onboarding, then he goes through a process of learning, training, then he goes through a process of performance management, goal management, and so on and so forth, succession planning. So the entire process from which the employee is going through, at each of those stages, there has to be a different set of a strategy. There can't be one size fit all for the people with the organization. At the same time, we need to make sure we are aligned with what the global values are. Because one of the questions that came in the beginning was, we have seen a lot of people moving out of the country as well.
Yes.
So talent management in itself has become one of the biggest challenge for the HR to keep and retain the talent within Pakistan.
Agree.
So it becomes growing and more evolving sort of a thing, and it becomes getting more and more scary as you go, as you pass on every other day. With the things getting beyond the control, and there are certain things that we can control, but there are lots of things which are beyond the control. For example, we see the war happening, we see the COVID happening, we see the
Yes.
inflation happening, we see the recession happening. But yes, at the same time, we have the organization within our country which are inclusive. We have seen the countries which have got the HR people who are more involved in development of the culture. The people who ensure the workplace inclusivity and the culture remains so cohesive that makes the people stay within the organization. There are the organizations which also focus more on the talent management on the base of the giving the, if we talk about the millennials and the Gen Zs, that are more about the having the more challenging goals. Rather, they are more focused. The newer generation is more focused on the purpose. If they are not getting a purpose out of a particular job they are
Correct.
doing, five, and they need more flexibility. So all
Correct.
those things combined together formulate a bigger umbrella of the strategy. When we have to look into the flexibility part, what we can offer, we have to see the compensation part, we have to see the learning part, we have to see the development part, and we have to see the ease of way of working part. And again, not just the purpose which is being offered to the employee, but rather to the purpose which is also being driven by the organization themselves. Because the people now want to associate with the organization which are purpose driven. So starting from the purpose, starting the entire cycle from hire to retire or hire to resign, whatever you call it. So that there the strategy plays a critical role.
Correct. I do agree that I think earlier we used to see that employees were content with a 9 to 5 job, but the newer crop of employees want to achieve or derive purpose or gratification out. I mean, everybody does, but there's been a slight shift. I mean, their focus is more on purpose and flexible working environment. And just picking on succession planning, which you mentioned, I'll move to and also introduce Hafeez Shah, who joined us while we were speaking. Hafeez, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, if you could please just introduce yourself and let us know your thoughts on succession planning vis-a-vis HR strategies.
Yeah, thank you very much. Uh, Sorry, actually, I'm still on the road. So due to the internet, I may not be able to open my camera. So my name is Hafeez. I am a CIO at Sapphire Finishing Mills Limited. I think this is a very hot topic nowadays, especially in terms of retaining the employees, right? So from here, you can see that how important it is to do a proper succession planning, because this is a challenge that everyone is having now, and especially if you talk about in technology industry in particular. I mean, we are short of resources, and not short of resources only, but I would say that the quality level, when you are looking to hire someone, is below the par, because most of the potential is leaving the country, right? So from here, I think this is you can imagine that this is the right time, maybe the right time to look into the succession planning. So because you can build your pipeline. So for instance, many projects are running in any organization, and this so much of iteration is sometimes becomes not only challenge but a bottleneck that increase the timelines of the project. That means the cost of the project is going up. So yeah, this is very important, and I think many of the companies, they have this realization now, and they are trying to uh, uh, they are trying to define or introduce some of the attractions, and for the new generation, I believe that at least they can show them a path, right? So from where they are starting in an organization like an MTO or a GR recruit, and then moving to a CEO. So if you don't show them this picture, right, I think it's it's very difficult to retain, especially the new talent, right? So I believe technology is playing a big part. Most of the OEMs now, developing and focusing more on the talent management when it comes to HR softwares, right? So that that helps. So, for example, in performance management, you can show an employee that if there is a particular objective for him for a year, so that objective is how it is linked with the overall department objectives, and how it is linked to the business objectives as an overall. So that gives them a lot of satisfaction in terms of that whatever they are doing, their piece is very important to reach or to achieve the business objective. So
Correct.
yeah.
Thank you. No, thank you. And you mentioned challenges. Now, some of these challenges are at a macro level, beyond an organization's control, even. So I think we just have to navigate our way around such challenges, which I believe a lot of employers have been doing over the months. Asad, moving to you, what challenges do you see remote workers facing in Pakistan? Because I think with the advancement in the tech sector and with the recent pandemic, we've seen more remote workers. In fact, some laws were also developed to recognize people working from home. What challenges do you see persons working from home in Pakistan can face or have been facing?
Thank you so much, Sahar. I think I just want to
Asad?
second some points from Hafeez, which he mentioned. So, just like for the succession plan, I think what we are missing here is actually a career roadmap, and then the talent development. Like there are no courses or training being happened in our HR ecosystem, and
Yeah.
I think I will say the moment you onboard any uh, employee, you should be giving him or her a complete picture, like what your 5 years will be looking like,
Yes.
what will be your training and
Correct.
career roadmap, right? So they will be like staying, and you will be able to reduce this risk of succession, like when you will be facing. So I think it's better to keep your pipeline updated instead just hiring whenever the need will arise. So it is better to like work on your employees and upskill them for the future needs. Now coming to your
Correct.
current now you're coming to your current point, that is about remote working challenges. I think like it is our bad luck in Pakistan. We are not, you can say, having a stable Wi-Fi or internet
Yes.
access. And
Yes.
every time every time, like that was only a basic necessity who connects you with internet, or you can say globally. So the moment we hire any person from Pakistan, the number one thing any client or any company will ask or make sure, do you have a stable internet?
Correct.
And then they will even ask you to send a screenshot like of your speed, right? They don't want to, you can say, get an issue after onboarding. You have a good skills, you have worked
Yeah.
hard, but there is a country constraint, or you can say government constraint, which is going to like offboard you, I will say, or you can say kick you out just because of this constraint which you cannot control. So I think I will
Absolutely.
just like, I will not like focus on the challenge which we are facing like as a talent or companies, but it is actually a problem which coming from a higher level. And our tech board, our PSC, BX, or all these departments have to make sure, please, like at least like make us you can say comfortable with that thing. And we are now top number 4 like among freelancers. We are like rising just due to our talent. I have been
Correct.
recognized as a global talent by the UK government. I am the youngest globally. All I would say, like, it is my hard work, and
Yes.
the system
Yes.
like tried his best or tried its best to, you can say,
Yes.
keep pushing us away from the
Correct.
success, because we are not being facilitated, sorry to say. So now coming to the remote, I think every team member or every employee in Pakistan or every person in Pakistan needs a stable internet, and that has to come from a higher level. Now that is the first and foremost challenge. Then coming to the next challenge, I think we don't take serious remote work like culture.
Yes.
We just got used to it. Like after pandemic, people were like globally people were used to it. We are just new to this thing, and we take it more casual than on-site work. And what we do, we
Correct.
we actually, you can say, like it happens like you invite someone on the interview, and they are like attending an interview in a car or on a motorcycle. Like it is very sad to see sometimes. Like there should be you can say I will say a same seriousness which you have on site. For the remote working, you should be having the same responsibility, and should be like alert and serious on your seat, and working the same way as you will be doing in the office. So I think this is what we have to
Correct.
focus on. uh,
Correct.
Other than that, I will say like companies have to make sure like they have employees or talent should be having a great equipments or devices. They should be having a like data. If they, you can say, cannot afford good speed and all that, company should be providing a package, because if you are not facilitating your talent, how they will be performing?
Yes.
You should eradicate all the challenges like of remote working, and just make sure they are focusing on a work, not on the like physical constraints or these things. Provide them good equipments or devices, provide them good internet device, data package, facilitate them, and they will be performing well. That's all from my side.
Correct.
Please continue. Thank you.
No, Zach, all of us probably feel very strongly about this. And as you mentioned, patchy internet woes are some, all of us go through this. I mean, for instance, I have a regular internet which is supposed to be, they promise to be the best, and I have a backup, then I have my hotspot. And the fact is not just related to internet. In Pakistan, we all know, and it's been said many, many times, that we have so much potential, but we keep, by we, I mean, the country as a whole, we keep losing our focus, we keep getting distracted. And as you mentioned, Wi-Fi now is a basic necessity, and we were on the path to achieving a lot of advancement in the telecom sector. But we've gone through sort of various phases and instabilities over the last few years, so we couldn't focus on what should have been a basic necessity. And you're also right that traditionally, with the kind of um, traditionally as a country, we do sort of differentiate a little bit between working on site and working remotely. That's probably just how the culture and perspective has been. So Jalal, I'll just come to you again. How do you measure? Again, I think it might differ from organization to organization, but how do you measure HR success in an organization? And how do you strive to achieve that success?
Okay. Um, First, to Asad's point and to yours, yeah, I think internet access needs to be elevated to the point of being a public utility and available everywhere. And just to add on, it's very interesting that we're talking about remote working because just on Friday, EFU Life announced up to 2 days of work from anywhere for all of its head office employees. So we have now, after our experiences with COVID, learned just about enough that we can actually roll this out, especially in these times, because then not only is it good for work-life balance and productivity, it also provides some measure of relief from the rising commute costs. So yeah, we've embraced 2 days a week for eligible employees, but unfortunately, the criteria for eligibility does include a stable internet connection. But we are working to facilitate our employees on that as well. Now, how is HR effectiveness measured? And granted that yes, it differs from organization to organization. That said, I think generally speaking, there are some metrics, people metrics that organizations can embrace to measure in broad strokes the effectiveness of the HR role. Famously, and I think it's changed now, but there was a time when the head of HR of Google was hired and fired on 2 KPIs: payroll incidents and employee engagement. That's it. Within just these 2 KPIs, you can cover pretty much 90% of all the various disciplines and functional areas, initiatives, and activities that HR includes, whether that's talent acquisition, talent management, performance management, payroll, benefits administration, employee experience, retention, etc. Just these 2 KPIs. I think that you can do something more enlightening with that, enlightened with that, because it's not just enough that you have happy people and your payroll incidents and your headcount costs are managed. I think it's also important to think about the future. So coming down to what we just talked about, I think a third measure of the effectiveness of an HR function, apart from these two, should be the depth and success of your succession planning. Like, how low do you go with your succession plan? Hopefully you're not just limited to those positions that are covered by the governance laws, but you're also taking it down at least to the middle management level. And then one measure, and the other measure is that you look at your bench strength. Which is not just that you have the succession plan in place and that you have the successors in place, but you have the hypos, you have the talent, you have sufficient quality in your talent pipeline that is moving into your succession plans, that is moving into those career paths. They've been given the projects they need to develop, and they're being rewarded and grown and trained and coached and mentored as is necessary. So I think just these 4 areas, if you can cover, I think you've covered about a very healthy chunk of everything an HR department does for its employees and its organization.
No, thank you. That's very insightful, and I hope a lot of HR departments do listen to what you've had to say. And Asad just mentioned that it's important for employers to give a package or to give facilities to employees to make sure that they have stable internet. But even if they do, I think it's more of a macro challenge. If you don't have good internet in the country, you don't. It's not something even the employers can control, except to provide that facility. And you
Well, I
mentioned
did say that
governance.
internet should be a public utility, but then given the state of our public utilities, I think it's better off in the private sector.
I
True.
agree. I completely agree. And you mentioned governance laws. Now, on that, I just quickly say that it comes as a surprise, even now, to see the breadth and extensiveness of employment laws in Pakistan. there are so many laws. A lot of them are outdated because these were promulgated in the 1960s when, generally
Earlier,
when the world was going through a different phase, when
some
Pakistan
of the
had.
laws governing wages in Pakistan were written
Yes.
in the late 1930s.
Yes, yes, because as you know, we've inherited a lot of laws from British India. So a lot of these laws are outdated now. Even today, I get, my clients contact me and they say, oh, we received a show cause notice from the labor inspector saying, why are you not maintaining hard copies of registers? And they say, well, we've moved to softwares. We've moved to softwares, but because the law is there and the law has not been amended, technically it's still a violation of the law. So rather than focusing on more important things, on growth, HR departments get embroiled in these minor violations, if you want to call them, because the law is still the law of the land. That should be amended. I mean, as I'm sure most of you, all of you know that initially employment law, labor law was a federal subject. It was then, after the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, it was devolved to the provinces. Now, the provinces promulgated their own laws, but they were based on the federal laws.
Yeah.
So we didn't really come up with a lot of innovation. We were just following what had been in place for years and decades. And there needs to be, I mean, once we have our house sorted, whenever that is, or if you already have, we need to look at this aspect as well. But as you say, given the state of the country, there are more intense things we need to focus on, and this hopefully will come alongside. Tanveer, moving to you, we've discussed succession planning, how to measure good, effective HR, challenges of remote working. Um, how do you see the government's role in, or at all? I mean, employment or labor is very much a private sector concept, but do you see or envision the role of the government, if at all?
I think it's a much bigger question, and I think it's another automatically becomes a bigger challenge as well. Looking at from a country perspective, because when you talk about the government, it comes the governance part of the country in itself. So when we see country as a whole, we see one of the like Jalal just mentioned about certain KPIs or the metrics which that he uses within his organization. In a similar way, there has to be, or there might be, I'm not sure, but there must be some KPIs and metrics within the at the government level, wherein they keep an eye on the number of people leaving the country, or number of talents leaving the
Yes.
country, or the number of knowledgeable workforce leaving the country. It is always good to use those KPIs, which currently which we have been using for years in terms of the amount of workforce that we provide. But now the shift has taken place. We used to have lots of drivers going out and lots of labor going
Correct.
out of country, and but now things have changed. Technology advancement has taken place, and there are lots of jobs that has become either they don't exist at all. If I just mention, there were times about 2 decades back when there used to be the motherboard of a computer used to be repaired. Nowadays,
Yes.
these are replaceable things. There were time when flash BIOS need to be updated, wherein an engineer goes, a hardware engineer and a software engineer. Hardware engineers open up the desktop, he uses the screwdrivers, opens up brings out the card, put the flash BIOS in, and now it's got updated automatically, and people don't even know who are using it. The laptop or the desktop, the flash BIOS is being really updated in a flash. So our KPI is still at the governance level, at the government level, could have been how much workforce that we are providing to the outer world. Whereas it should have been a greater KPI in terms of how much knowledgeable workforce we are providing. There's a lot of brain drain already happening,
Yes.
be it for one reason or the other. But yes, at the same time, there's also a big shift in the way that people are working, and I think Jalal would be able to comment on it more, especially considering that with the remote working option that we've seen.
Mhm.
So there are lots of people who are using Fiverr or the Upwork, and they're actually been doing they prefer doing the jobs at their own pace with the flexibility and
Yes.
earning in the dollars. That's the
Yes.
part again from where the country comes in. Unfortunately, we have going through a recession, the inflation part. So people prefer to have earning in the dollars. and expenses out in the Pak
Yes.
rupee. So that way, the people, despite being based in Pakistan, they might
Yeah.
not be working for the organization in Pakistan.
Correct.
They might be
Correct.
preferring to work with some company in Dubai, and then they use the internet, and then again, they uses the same internet which we have been talking
Correct.
about, and actually work through it. There has been certain unfortunate incident when there's an elongated period of shutdown of internet, be it for some
Yes.
security reasons or whatsoever. But
Yes.
that again, still the people are using. So the bigger challenge from the government level is that there has to be
Yes.
some sort of measurement in terms of KPIs, like the organization do. If Jalal can measure within his organization, start using certain metrics, who he need to keep track of, where he need to put his more brain into it to manage that, because problems are everywhere. It's not
Hmm.
something we can keep on talking about problem, but there are ways to address those until, or not even address those. There are ways to manage those problems. So
Hmm.
that way you can actually work by using those metrics and KPIs and strategies. You work through it, and there are lots of success stories as well within the
Yes.
organizations. We just heard one that when when the people are moving back from the working from home to the hybrid, that we used to have the total working from home in the COVID days. EFU is now embarking on a project, on an initiative wherein they are allowing certain people to work from home for 2 days a week. Again, getting
Hmm.
to the hybrid thing, caring about the people, caring about the commute time, caring about the fuel prices, caring about the commute cost, and so on and so forth. So same way, but again, Jalal's capacity goes into his organization only. No? He can only convince his CEO, okay, what he need to do. If we go to the government level, again, it has to be escalated up. It has to be a bigger thing, and a bigger thing in terms of policies, in terms of priorities. You just spoke about some of those laws which were built in 1960 or 1930s. And if we are struggling in those, then you can imagine it's getting more and more tougher.
Correct.
So the people who are getting impacted, they find an easy way out. Either they get hold of a visa and go abroad, or they stay
Hmm.
there in Pakistan and still do work for the other organization
Yes.
which are not in Pakistan.
Yes.
So, so that challenge remains.
And we can't blame them. And you just mentioned, I think the government is aware of all this. It just needs to put its mind and really, I mean, look after this brain drain issue we're facing. I think we've lost Hafiz, but Asad, coming to you, you mentioned training, and that's a very valid point. Employees need to be trained. They need to be given a roadmap so that they know where I mean where they are now. If they perform well, where can they see themselves in the next few years? There needs to be a structure to their employment. But yahan pe we often see there's a very short jacketed approach, where if there's a vacancy, let's hire somebody. If he goes, let's hire somebody else. So apart from training or giving them a roadmap, what would you recommend or suggest to employers to ensure that they groom their employees who can be future leaders?
Perfect. So, Sahar, on that, I always recommend having the certifications roadmap actually. Like, if you are upskilling your employees for like, if they are like project managers, we say, right? And now, in future you will be needing like agile and scrum, you can say techniques and all that. So why don't you start upskilling your current managers if they are like following traditional methods, waterfall and all that? If you start upskilling them with the certifications, like, and on every successful, uh, you can say, certification, you are rewarding them with promotion, or there is a framework we use. It is development framework, something like that. Like, I will give you an example. There is a software house in Pakistan named as Confis Limited. I have worked in that. There is a great learning and development framework, and even there is a separate department which is managing all the development or LMS, learning management system, for the employees. So whenever they are doing any courses in their free time or when they are home, they are measuring the progress of these employees or the team members. And the moment they complete any course, they are added into that learning and development framework. So when a town hall happens, or like a quarter meeting happens, every employee who has done extra learning, during their time period, they will be rewarded or benefited by the company. It can be a promotion, it can be a cash or some certificate or a medal. I think that is what every employee needs or wants. Like if they are doing daily routine tasks, they should be having a confidence like they are learning and upskilling along the way, and they are ready for next roles or whatever they plan to do. Like it is always a two way. If company is
Mhm.
taking your time and energy for years, you are you have the same you can say uh, I will say choice, right? Like
Yes.
you can have full control on your career. You are not pinned
Yes.
into any company, and company should be facilitating you, and you should be asking the company, how do you going to upskill my career or my current skills so I can
Yes.
be ready for next roles or whatever I plan to do, right? So it is a two way, and I think if we consider it a two way, our in our culture in Pakistan, employees are mostly, like you can say, very worried, and they don't talk or discuss the things.
Correct.
In other countries, employees more dominant, right? And they keep pushing the company, like we might leave, we are not having a growth
Hmm.
opportunities here and all that.
Hmm.
Here I will not say like you start threatening your company. It is not a good culture. But if you are facilitating and having all the checks for the employees, like these LMS and all that, I think you will be retaining, you will be saving a lot of cost and time for future hirings because you have pipeline and upskilled managers already. Hiring an associate is very easy or internee, but
Yes.
hiring a technical person or a senior person is, you can say, a hassle, because you cannot find that person who has worked for 5 years in a company, and now someone just takes an in charge and start doing the same thing or same performance. So what I you can say have observed mostly, like if someone is leaving a company after 10 years of working, the only or the biggest setback they were facing was upskilling or a growth opportunities, lack of growth
Yes.
opportunities. That was the biggest demotivation they had. They kept, you can say, resisting, and at some point they said they felt like our colleagues or our other team members are growing and I am just stuck with this company
Yes.
for 5 or 10 years. So I think this is the point where company has to work on and retain the employees or the team members. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. No, you mentioned you have a valid point. You need to train employees, and then you
Mhm.
also need to incentivize them. And again, I'll take Jamal's view on this, but you mentioned, again, you referred to the culture and the perspective and sort of social norms in our country. Again, as you mentioned, that in other countries, employees, you use the word dominant, but in Pakistan, sometimes employees feels that they're being used to get work out of them, and there's no growth. So once they've given the work that the employee expects, they're replaceable. Somebody else, if somebody else comes, they can be replaced. There's job insecurity, which is a different matter. There is financial remuneration if you are being adequately compensated for the time you're spending. But then there's also growth, which you mentioned. I mean, you need to be, and I think I started our talk today with this, that you need to be valued, and you should feel that you are being valued. If you spend, and a lot of employers will say, oh, it's part of your job description. When you start working, you have to put in a lot of hours. But then if you put in a lot of hours, you also expect to be acknowledged and to be treated as part, and as cliched as it might sound, you need to feel part of this family. Your organization is a family. um, I mean, we all blood relations, that's fine, but organizations, because you're spending a lot of time in the organization every day. You are in the trenches with your colleagues. You sit together, you brainstorm, you fix issues. So you need to continue being felt a part of it as you grow. Jalal, coming to you, I think initially you mentioned sociological factors, etc., and perhaps that's why employees perhaps were handled in a particular way. And now, as Tanveer initially mentioned, that with the millennials and Gen Z, they expect to be treated slightly differently. How do you see that, especially in in the sector that you EFU? It's a traditional sector. Insurance has always been a slightly traditional sector, which we
I'm going to let you finish and then I will correct you on that.
sure. I mean, we've seen insurance as something which has been around for a while. Of course, when you are part of that industry, when you work as head of HR every day, you have experiences which we are not aware of. We only see it from outside and we see it as being consistent over the years. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I would hope so. You expect your insurance partner, someone who is going to protect your life and the well being of your loved ones, to be stable and secure. And I take it as a compliment that people in the country see EFU Life as a bastion of strength and stability, and I take it as a compliment. But to turn around and say that just because we are strong and stable and we protect the lives of our policyholders, that means that we're old and staid and traditional, I assure you, we are not. Over 70% of my headcount is under the age of 35.
But despite being young, don't
We
you feel they're
innovate. We've
working?
got a history of innovation. We receive awards for it. Right now, we are very proud to be one of the first insurance companies that brought window takaful into Pakistan. We were the first to have chatbots within the insurance sector. We were the first to offer unit-linked policies in the Pakistani insured life assurance market, which is now quite prevalent across the industry.
That's
My
amazing.
own HR department right now, we are working on the first, and not to brag because I haven't done it yet, but my team and I are currently working on the first ever training intervention that is co-facilitated by an AI.
That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
and
And
that's just us. Look at what we're doing in the microfinance sector right now.
yes,
In terms of financial inclusion and bringing safety and security and
yes,
financial security to some of the most underserved and underprivileged sectors of Pakistan's economy.
yes,
How did all of that happen? Innovation is not a function of age or image. It
correct.
is a choice. It is built into your culture. It is your practice.
But do
And
you
by the
see
way, it's a part of our company culture and our corporate values. The very first minutes of the very first general meeting of the board of directors of EFU Life, we said it very clearly. Life assurance is a social service that we provide to the people of
correct?
Pakistan. Our CEO has made it very clear what EFU Life's overall vision and goal is. Every household in Pakistan should at least have one person that is protected by EFU Life. And we're working towards that. And
That's
you don't achieve that by not being innovative. We I just told you on Friday, we made a formal announcement for work from anywhere. Today, just today at 3 p.m., we announced that we are now on WhatsApp for Business. And that
that's
innovation
very
is
very positive.
constantly happening.
It's very positive and heartening to hear. I think what I probably meant was not in
Hmm.
terms of innovation, but the insurance sector. We, as you mentioned, we see it as being solid and stable, along
Good.
with innovations, and that's great. But so just I think we're going to digress slightly. But insurance, and you mentioned that every household in Pakistan, at least one person needs to be insured. I think again we come to cultural and social norms in Pakistan. Some time ago, last year, somebody contacted me and they wanted to know to what extent people are insured in Pakistan, especially when it comes to life insurance or medical insurance. Um, Again, is that a challenge you feel in the country that
Yes.
that
So,
and how do you see that? I mean, maybe we have with, as Tanveer says, we have the millennials and Gen Z, so maybe they'll be a little more keen to take out insurance. But do you see that shift happening as well?
yeah, slowly. Um, there is a need for greater insurance penetration. We
Yes.
can definitely command a higher share of the GDP of the country. And the
Yes.
insurance market, whether it's general, life, or medical, is blue ocean. There's tremendous room for people to grow, but it requires a lot of educating to the general public. But we see
Right.
that as a challenge. That's what makes our work exciting. We find excitement in that. The important thing from an HR perspective is that you need to be constantly doing a lot of storytelling. You need to be building
Yes.
that and inculcating that into your employees, new and old, and to have the people who have gone through the rough times, who have fought the wars and won them, to be telling these stories to the new generation that is coming in, and to be building in them that same sense of purpose, that same sense of
Yes.
mission, that
Yes.
you're not just doing a job. Sure, it's a job. We're all getting paid for this. But that's the good part. Here's how you are having an impact, not just on your team or on your department or in the company, but you're having a social impact. We're on a mission here.
Right.
And this is how you're contributing. Even if it's small, you're still important. The work you do matters, and it has an impact. And as long as we can keep doing that storytelling, have that filter in from top down, and have everybody having this particular conversation, I think you end up not just with a very healthy and productive work culture
Yes.
where such storytelling happens, and I'm a huge fan of the power of storytelling, but
Yes.
also you end up with an organization with a lot of resilience. You end up with an organization that can take the punch of these hard times, and you can make it through on the
Yes.
strength of the will and the passion of your headcount.
I mean, you take so much pride in your work. I'm sure people working, your colleagues and people you've been mentoring or training, there is always there's always, if they see pride and positivity at the top, it trickles down. So I'm sure your team members feel the same way, and it's just very positive and heartening. Again, I'll repeat this, to hear your take and how you see the insurance sector contributing to Pakistan, not just commercially or contributing to the GDP, but socially as well. And we can, you made a very interesting point. As a nation, we like listening to stories, and there needs to be storytelling. So I hope, with time and when things, I think as a nation, what we want is stability. When the stability, will be mentally free to listen to stories and to absorb those stories, and maybe then have a change in perspective. Um, so you make very interesting and very valid points, which go to physiological and sort of social sort of culture and norms in Pakistan. Tanveer, I'll just move to you, and I think we're also running out of time. So any concluding remarks?
I think we have got a wonderful discussion, and which it varies from the organization to the what country should be doing and what the people should be doing. I think one last thing that we must is something which is catching up very fast within Pakistan, and that is the aspect of the diversity that I would like to talk
Yes,
about.
yes,
And I think this is something a topic which is very close to my heart, because we believe, and I've got firm belief in that we can't leave one aspect of the whole society just
yes,
because of certain things the way that has been done earlier. So, so the organization, one of the aspiring organizations, those organizations which are the future organization, one organization which we call the intelligent organizations, they are actually heading on their journey for the diversity and for inclusivity. Generally, when we talk about diversity, it talks about generally the one thing that comes to the mind is more about the men and the women, whereas it goes more beyond that. It goes about the various people within the organization, various sectors, various income groups, and the various generations which are there into that thing. But at the same time, how can one of the key role that comes into play is how can we make an inclusive culture? How can we have a workplace where the people feel more comfortable to share their opinion, where
yes,
they are actually being they felt to be listened. Okay, they are being listened, they're being heard, and that is something which is very important for the for the future of any organization and also for Pakistan. We need to make sure the culture that we're living in fosters this inclusivity, and it promotes the diversity in terms of diversity of action, in terms of diversity of opinion, in terms of listening and hearing them out.
Yes.
Generally, if you go more in you go a couple of years back, the more it was more of talk was about how to be more to have more equal things on that part.
Hmm.
Whereas if you see now, the much better thing is how can we be more equitable. So it's more about
Yes.
equity versus equitable, because equitable is something which is more powerful.
Equal versus equitable. Yes.
Equitable is equitable, and there's something which is more powerful because it is something which is which actually addresses the need of a person. Depending
Yes.
upon his or her need, you actually fit in and make those things there. There could be people who, for example, might not be interested in having the all 5 days
Yes.
being done from working from home. They might have the electricity issue. They might not have a generator at home. They might have been not a big
Correct.
enough home to have a workplace which can provide them
Correct.
isolation. And that's where that inclusivity comes in. That you say, okay, there is certain space possibilities where we can make a hybrid environment, where we can make a 2 days work week or 3 days work week, and then so on and so forth. So having if I can
We
put it
should
that
focus
way, that
on productivity.
you can focus on the productivity. Yeah, and but again, that thing comes from the other part also, because generally it also comes with the culture of trust. uh,
Yes.
and it's a more of a cat and mouse situation, because we have seen when the people are giving more flexibility, sometimes they also start abusing the trust that the organization
That's
is giving
true.
them.
That's true.
And so it goes both ways. But again, just because of fear and lack of trust, we can't stop getting into this initiative. Initiative
Correct.
should go on, innovation should go on, new ideas should be fostered in wherein the employees are giving more flexibility, more empowerment, and more inclusivity. And yes, there will be certain people who will be doing those gray things, and then there comes a policy of how can you actually be make them accountable for that. There's a famous line comes from the Spider-Man thing, with the greater accountability
Yes.
comes the greater
Yes.
responsibility. With the greater
Yes.
responsibility comes the greater accountability. So if
Yes.
someone is being made responsible, you actually endowing the responsible on the shoulder of an employee, that you are entitled to work for 2 days from home, which means we are freeing you from to all the commute hassles and saving your time. But you should ensure your availability and
Correct.
accessibility, and should own to those tasks that has been fostered on you, because
Correct.
organization depend on you as one of
Correct.
the prime employee within the contributor within the organization. So it goes
Correct.
hand in hand. And but yes, diversity is an area which I think is a key area, key focus in most of the organization, and should keep on moving, because we are still a way behind as a whole country in that aspect.
Correct. No, I completely agree. And there also needs to be self accountability. So, not just being accountable and responsible to our employers, but we need to be conscious enough to hold ourselves accountable as well. Jalal, Asad, if you have any final remarks before I close today's discussion.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Sahar. Tanveer and Jalal have shared a lot of great points. I will touch base on some. One of them is like inclusivity and diversity. What I see is in our, you can say, country and organizations, we take these points like very, you can say, not very seriously, and that is because we are not aware of the points, and there is like no women empowerment, I will say. Like there are some roles we always hire men, and there are some roles like in department, like I would say in HR department, it is obvious women will be taking in charge, or you can say leading the department. We have like very misconceptions, I will say, and we have to eradicate these misconceptions or
I,
theory.
I, I'll just interject here. I think there has been a shift. So even in my practice over the years, I've seen that that sort of traditional line being sort of
Right.
first available. Now I see more women taking on roles which were traditionally
Yes,
I think
gradually.
we have
Yes.
just head of HR, so there has been that shift.
Yes, Sahar, we are gradually like moving to this point, but like there are some, I will say, small, medium organizations
Yes,
which lag this
yes,
point still, and just because they are not like opening the positions for the women,
that's true.
they are like working, or I will say, struggling to find a good job because there are very less
That's true.
openings for them. Now, coming to the
That's true.
next
And with
point, that, sure.
with increasing inflation, it's important to have two sort of it's important to have two members earning these days. So you're right that we need to open more positions for women and make it flexible for them to work. Please
Right, or
continue.
I will say like just balance a head count of like women and men ratio. So you have a inclusive and diverse organization. Then comes a point of modern slavery, which we don't know, right? So modern slavery is like a thing where you feel you are being tricked, or an organization is taking more
That's
than
corporate abuse
providing.
as well. Yeah, it's
Yes,
called corporate
yes,
abuse as well. Yeah.
commercial or commercial corporate abuse. So we don't know about our rights, and we don't
Correct.
communicate our rights or our issues with the
Correct.
organization. And what is happening currently, organizations don't know about the issues of the employees or the team, and ultimately
Yes.
there is a gap in between, and both just start, you can say, judging each other. And
Yes.
there is a difference of, I will say, interest. And what leads you, an employee leaves a company, and an organization has a very gap finding a good talent, just because they
Yes.
don't have a good communication on that, like what are your rights, what we will be providing, and all that. Now the last point I will touch base, there is a compliance. Organizations should be compliant. We in Pakistan are not very much compliant. Corporate industries, or I would say enterprises, are, but software houses mostly, they are not like that much compliant, like with
That's true.
HR and these departments. I think there we have to train the organizations, and
Hmm.
they, the moment we start training them, and I think uh, PSCBX or like our PBIT, these departments should be taking lead on that. Start trainings,
Hmm.
start giving the workshops to executives. And for talent, I will say, please keep upskilling. Don't settle for less. Don't just like spend your days. Please start training. If organization is providing, that's good. If they are not, just communicate. If they are not like helping you with that, at least start upskilling yourself.
Hmm. That's true.
Thank you so much.
I think maybe because here employers focus on complying with the strict letter of the law, even though that law is outdated and the law doesn't recognize modern slavery or corporate abuse, etc. And also, if an employee leaves, the employer will find a replacement. So, that sense of inculcation or feeling an integral part of the organization is perhaps missing. Jalal, any final words? We've run out of time, but any final words before we close the show?
Then I'll be brief. I don't have anything to say about, as a final parting message about HR, but I think generally speaking, look, times are tough. We all know it. We face it corporately, at a corporate level, at a business level, and we face it at a personal level. I just want to leave my colleagues and with the people who are watching us today with one very simple request: be optimistic and
Yes.
try to spread that positivity around.
Yes.
Remember, there is only one way that we make it through any of these issues that we face, and that's together. If we can
Yes.
do it holding each other up and smiling
Yes.
and just being generally positive and a source of light and strength for each other, we will make it.
Absolutely.
We'll do more than make it. We'll thrive. We'll survive. Remember, this too will pass, inshallah.
I agree. I think we've seen the worst of it, and it's only onwards and upwards, inshallah. And
Inshallah.
I also agree we need to be given all the sort of challenging circumstances we've been through. We need to be less self-centered and self-absorbed and work more
And
as
just
a
care for
community and
each other a little
society.
bit.
Yes, be there for each other, look after the other's interests, and not just think of our own interests. I completely agree. We need to be positive, inshallah. I have absolutely no doubts. It's been, we've been through a slightly protracted challenge, but it's only upwards from here, inshallah. वो कहते हैं ना नीयत साफ मंजिल आसान. So we'll just close on that
Yeah.
note. Thank you again. Thank you very much, all of you,
Thank
for
you.
joining. It's been an interesting discussion. I hope it has some positive impact on the people who listen to us or will listen to us in the upcoming days. Thank you again. Have a good evening, rest of the evening, and good luck with your work tomorrow and
Thank you.
days
Bye.
after.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Gentlemen,
you.
Goodbye.
pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Okay.